Now let's talk about some modern methods of how baptism is carried out. I want to go through this for you if you're watching and you're just not familiar with baptism as a ceremony because you weren't really raised in any church background. Otherwise, if you are leading this study, I want you to be a little more familiar with where the person you're studying with might be coming from. Depends on what type of a denominational background the person is coming from. They may be familiar with a variant number of different methods. One that's pretty popular that I see is the idea of quarterly baptisms or some type of set date for baptisms throughout a year. A lot of times you might see baptism events advertised by big non-denominational churches where people that were saved in the last 3 or 4 months, they'll have a baptism ceremony and just baptize them, all at once, knock them out, as we say. If that were to, be read into the events of the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 8, it would read a little bit different. You see, that's when Philip was in the chariot with the eunuch, and the eunuchs, they're reading Isaiah 53, and he says, "Here's water, what keeps me from being baptized." Now, if it was the modern method that we just explained, Philip would have told the eunuch, "Well, we're having a baptism event in May. That's about 2 months away. So if you'll come back to the temple in May, then we're going to baptize a lot of people that already made their confession of Christ and accepted Jesus into their heart. We'll baptize you then as well." That's what this method would look like, even though that's obviously not what Acts chapter 8 portrays. That brings up the pretty common belief on baptism that it's not the point in time at which somebody is saved and becomes a Christian, but rather it's a outward sign of an inward change that has already taken place in the heart. It's basically a sign to everybody around you that you believe that you are saved now. That's the common belief. There are other churches that believe that you become a Christian when you're baptized. I'm not going to give away my hand yet. Some of you watching already know what I believe, but keep on watching to find the answer. There are some churches that baptize infants, and that's actually a little bit misuse of terms. We'll explain why in just a minute in the next episode, but they sprinkle water or they pour water over the infant's head, or maybe they dip their head in a little basin of water and say a few words over the child. There are other churches that believe it's completely wrong to baptize infants. Some places it's kind of what the person prefers. If you want to be baptized, then we'll baptize you. Others believe you do have to be baptized, as it is a command in the Bible, but again, it's not necessarily for salvation. And then some people, talking about adults, there are churches who, if you don't want to go under the water, perhaps maybe you're scared of going underwater, that if you would prefer rather to just be sprinkled over the head with water or have it poured over you, refer back to the child incident, then that's fine. They'll do that for you. It's just kind of whatever you prefer. So you might run into a number of these. I will tell you, if you were to go to this YouTube link and you were to watch this video, this would give you an idea of modern day baptisms as it's typically carried out in most denominations or quote unquote non-denominational churches.